Welcome everyone to Train Tuesday. I am your host, Jim Wiggins. So glad to be with you tonight. And if you are joining us live, thanks for joining us live. And if you're catching us on YouTube later, I know a lot of my fans out there like to watch this on the weekends, and I get it. Weekends, I'm hopefully at the workbench or at the one of the modules working on them. So I get it. If you're watching us on YouTube and you like the content, please do us a favor, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video like this enters the feed. Well, let's see who's joining us here tonight. Let's see. Ronald is here. Diana's Freighters and Trains. I don't believe we've met. Welcome aboard. Ronald is here. Greg is here. David, Mr. Charles Wood is here. Anthony, Robin, and DG Model Works is in the house. And Derek, we got another Norfolk Southern special for you here tonight, so you're going to be happy. We also have Jeffrey, Bradley, and Mr. Benjamin Temple just south of me. And let's see, Bearzilla is in the house. Sid is here from Ohio, and Ronald as well. It looks like Leonard Skinner has joined us too. That's pretty cool. So I want to thank you for joining us. Looks like from last week, you guys really enjoy the format change. And so we're going to go forward and do that. Now, this week, the SD60Es that we're going to be talking about, these are in stock right now at your Athearn dealer. Now, in the next coming few weeks, we will probably be talking about models that are not here yet, but they'll be here in the next few weeks. So with that, let's get another run of shout outs. And I see Michael has joined us. Tim has joined us. Dan has also joined us. He is with the CSX Queso subdivision in HS scale. And of course, there is Robin. So once again, thank you for joining us. And probably see a little bit different scenery from what you've seen in the past. This is the HO scale switching layout that I built for Athearn that I sometimes take to shows. It is not what you're going to see in the future on these videos. There's actually something in the background over there that I'm working on, and hopefully we'll have that up in the next month or so. All right. Well, let's talk about the SD60E. So if you're like me, you probably like retro mods. Now, what's a retro mod? Well, in the car world, a retro mod is when you take an older vehicle and it, for the most part, keeps the same body style, body look of the original, but it's been updated with new suspension, new transmission, new engine, sometimes even a new interior, or it's been customized. And it's not just car enthusiasts that do that. The railroads do that as well. And the SD60 is a prime example. Now, beginning in early 2010, SD60 number 6653 entered the Juanita shops in Altoona, PA, as what would be the first of 240 planned units of the SD60E capital rebuild program for Norfolk Southern. Following in August the same year, SD60s numbers 6567 and 6576 were retired and destined for the SD60E program that was planned to continue through 2019. Now, mechanically, the original prime mover, a 16-cylinder 710 G3, remained, but it was thoroughly rebuilt. In fact, it was rebuilt to a 710 G3B specs and re-rated to 4,000 horsepower. Now, the original shaft-driven air compressor was, of course, replaced with a new motor-driven compressor. All new electrical cabinets and wiring coupled with the EMD's EM2000 microprocessor controls was also installed, along with D99 BTR traction motors. Now, a new split cooling system helps the SD60E meet its Tier 0 plus emission requirements and reduces its fuel consumption by an estimated 5% as compared to the older SD60 model. Now, the SD60E's tractive effort is rated at 109,000 pounds, while an unbuilt SD60 is rated at 96,320 to 100,000 pounds. Now, externally, while most of the SD60 car body remained intact, the program included the installation of a completely new cab. And this is really, honestly, one of the biggest spotting features of the SD60E is the cab. Now, the cab was designed by Norfolk Southern with input from outside consultants and train crews. It was fabricated by Cary Railroad Supply, which was a local vendor, and it doesn't look like anything else that's on the rails today. It has the pronounced number boards, headlight housing, and flat front with a centered cab door. Let me know in the comments if you're a rail fan and you're a fan of the SD60E. Let me know what kind of nicknames you've given this guy. Me and a friend that rail fan in Illinois, we've called this the Unibrow. It's it's just a really unique cab. Now, the first unit was finally released for service on November 15th back in 2010, carrying road number 6900. In March 2011, 6901 was released, followed by 6902 in June of that same year. These units gave Norfolk Southern mechanical, personal, valuable feedback as the units toured the system and during real life testing. Now, in March 2012, the fourth SD60E emerged from Juanita as one of the 12 units initially funded for the program. But the pace of the remanufacturing process picked up as initial teething problems were addressed. We're going to talk about two different types of SD60s in tonight's program. We're going to show you some of the subtle differences. So let's talk a little bit too about the image. You guys probably know I rail fan too as a hobby, and this is one that I caught. Now, I took this image back on March 1st, 2023, just north of Lodge, Illinois, on the former Norfolk Southern, or I'm sorry, on the Norfolk Southern's Forest District C line. Now, this is just maybe 5 miles south of me where I'm doing this program tonight. Now, this was originally Wabash country. This line was formerly the Wabash 6th, 7th, and 8th districts, which ran from Chicago to Effingham, Illinois. Now, the C line is partially abandoned from Manhattan, Illinois to Gibson City, Illinois, and it is completely abandoned from Bement, Illinois to Effingham, Illinois. Currently operated along the Peoria District SP line as the Bloomington District of the Illinois Division. Of course, SD60. It's a little blurry. It's not my best photo, but it's one of those things where I call it my Sasquatch photo. I wanted to actually take a picture of it to prove that I actually had a picture of an SD60E. So it's a little blurry. It was just starting to get dark because I took this literally last March, just before the time change. So with that, let's get talking about what we're going to be offering for models this month. And actually, these are all available at your Athearn dealer right now. So the first three units that we're going to talk about, these are SD60Es. These are part of the SD60E rebuild program that started in 2010. Now, again, they're using the old SD60 units as cores. Now, these are the earlier examples, and the earlier units that we have featured are have some pretty interesting little features to them. Oval cab windows is one of the spotting features. If you look carefully, you can see that the cab side windows have an oval shape to them. These, of course, were not equipped with PTC antennas, and we're offering 3 different versions here. Now, if you look carefully, you can see some of the, over off to your left, my right, you can see era and some of the features specific for these first 3 units. So these are all 2012 era locomotives. They have the oval cab windows. You'll notice too, these have the Sinclair antennas on the roof. All of these are going to have the 4,000-gallon fuel tank. They've also got forward-placed air reservoirs and rearward-placed air dryer. Now, 6908 has a Nathan K5 LA horn, which, if you're like me and you're a fan of horns, you probably love that sound. Next one in this group, same thing. It's going to have all the same features as the previous one. However, this one is outfitted with a Nathan K5 HR-24 horn. This is, of course, 6913. Again, this is for 2012 on up. And then finally, in this group is 6915. This is going to be coming with a Nathan K5 LA horn. Now, like I said, a lot of these first ones went out on the road for Norfolk Southern. They were used throughout the system, and they use that as the proving grounds for these locomotives. They got some real world feedback from crews on these locomotives, and so there are some subtle changes. So when you go out rail fanning, and if you're rail fanning Norfolk Southern, and SD60Es are known to wander that area, if you want to know if it's a, we'll call it a phase 1 versus a phase 2, there's some subtle differences. So let's take a look. So here's one that's rather famous, 6920. Now, later Norfolk Southern rebuilds featured rectangular cab windows. Look closely, you'll see that the cab windows are rectangular. And of course, these are later. These are later in 2014. These have PTC full arrays on the roof. The fuel tanks on these too also varied. Sometimes it would be 3,600 gallons all the way up to 4,800 gallons. So there's some spotting features there for you to look for as well. Now, of course, Norfolk Southern 6920, pretty famous. You probably noticed I've got it on the layout here behind me. We'll take a closer look at this locomotive in a little bit. Now, we did 4 besides the veterans unit that are the newer ones with PTC antennas. Now here's one, 6986. This represents 2013, of course, rectangular cab windows, PTC roof array, forward placed air reservoirs, forward placed air dryer. Now 6986 features a 4,500 gallon fuel tank. And if you look carefully, you'll see the walkway guard. Look real carefully. Hopefully, if you're watching this on a large screen, you can really see it, but it's a very small, subtle thing, and it's something to look for when you go rail fanning. The walkway guard on this particular unit has rectangular cutouts. Not a big deal, but wait till we get to the next locomotive. You're going to see a slight difference. This one's going to have a 4,500 gallon fuel tank. 7,000 has the same walkway guard, but if you look carefully, the cutouts are in the shape of the Norfolk Southern horsehead. Kind of cool. Kind of a cool little feature that they did to those things. And there's a couple that we offered that are like this. This is just one of them, 7,000. Of course, 7,002, another one that is a later version. This, of course, is for 2014 on up, and this one includes a 3,900 gallon fuel tank. And there's that walkway guard again, and if you look carefully, it's got the Norfolk Southern horsehead cutouts. Kind of a cool feature. So when you're rail fanning, check that out. You might just see one of those. Now, I'm going to say it right up front. I'm going to put out the trigger warning because I know there's some folks in the room that probably don't like these, but we did them anyways. And there were really some liberties taken on this run. But you know what? For the most part, most people did really like these. Only a few naysayers. Yes, I'm talking about legendary liveries. And here you go. We've got some interesting stuff. Now, we all know that when Norfolk Southern unveiled a series of 20 heritage units back in 2012, they were all painted in faithful renditions of their predecessor roads. Now, of course, the railfan community rejoiced. However, many of the subject roads featured more than just one famous paint scheme, such as CNJ's brilliant red Coast Guard scheme as seen here. Now, some of these that we did were never really Norfolk Southern heritage units like the Monon, but we did it anyways just because it was kind of fun. So here we've got the CNJ version. Now it's going to have features that are virtually the same from the rebuild program because we just said, what if Norfolk Southern took 3 of these locomotives from the rebuild program, repainted them in these cool paint schemes? This is what they would look like. So, of course, rectangular cab windows because it's a later version. These are all going to have the PTC roof antennas. And they're going to have forward-placed air reservoirs, forward-placed air dryer, 4,500 gallon fuel tanks on these 3. And the walkway guards, all 3 of them will have the horsehead cutouts. So CNJ fans, there you go. The Coast Guard paint scheme. Actually looks pretty good on this locomotive. And then we've got the Monon. Yes, we got a lot of feedback on this because they said, wait a minute. This isn't really a Norfolk Southern heritage. It's kind of a stretch. But, some of the track is there is some trackage rights there and stuff. And basically, PD just thought it would be a cool paint scheme to put on this unique locomotive. Now, the Monon had a really cool paint scheme. And I'll throw it out there. I want to see who's got the answer first. But tell me what inspired this paint scheme. It was we'll say a somewhat famous college. So if somebody is in there that knows what it is, put it out in the comments. I'm watching comments right now, and I'll put you out there as a shout out. But yeah, we had to do the Monon. And then one last one in. Now, see, this one's actually pretty Pretty accurate. Actually, I just saw somebody with a right answer. I'm going to go back to the Monon one quickly. It was Terry. Terry says Purdue. That's right. So good job. Yeah, that's what it was. The original paint scheme for the Monon, they were inspired by Purdue. And actually, the colors look really good on this locomotive. Now, let's go back to our last legendary liveries, the Norfolk Western. Now, this is really cool. This is the really cool, kind of the metallic maroon paint scheme that they had. Really, really cool locomotive. If you're a Norfolk Western fan, you're probably going to want this one on your fleet, even though it never really happened. It really looks cool. Norfolk Western's distinctive metallic maroon scheme, or Monon's classy black and gold scheme, or of course the CNJ Coast Guard scheme. They all look really nice. They're great looking locomotives. And if you're into that kind of stuff, well, we've got them here for you. Everything that we've talked about, every road number that I've listed here, they're in stock at your Athearn dealer now. Now, some of you may have pre-ordered these. We announced them just a little over 2 years ago. And you probably pre-ordered them and you've already got them now. Let me know in the comments if you've already enjoying one on your roster. If not, if you missed them, now's your chance to add them to your roster because they are available at all Athearn dealers right now. So with that, let's do a little Q&A real quick. If you got some questions on the SD60E Athearn Genesis models, and then maybe we'll do a little bit of running too, because I've got one behind me that I can share with you. Let's see what we got for questions here tonight. So also active rail fanning is my associate and fellow troublemaker, Janik, who is our product developer, who is pretty much assigned with a lot of these paint schemes. He shot 6907 out in 2017 in Caliente, California. He's got a pretty cool, I'll leave that up there for a little bit. You want to check it out. He is a very accomplished rail fan. He's got some great pictures. In fact, we use a lot of his pictures for not only our research, but our marketing material. Thanks, Janet. Let's see. Charles Woods is more of a fan of the Monon unit versus the N&W. There you go. Let's see what else we go. What are the lighting features? I'm glad you asked, Nick. We're actually going to talk about the lighting features here in just a minute. I'm going to do more than that. I'm going to show you the lighting features. This is Athearn Genesis, so it's got some additional lighting features that Athearn and Roundhouse do not include. I don't have any updates for a lot of the models that you're asking about in the comments right now, just because I haven't been working in that area the last few days. I've been working on some stuff that's more into the future. But keep a look on our social media. If you post a question there about when something's due, I generally try to answer it. Let's see. Randall saying, by the way, Jim, I sent you photos of a really cool locomotive. I caught it there yesterday to your messenger. Okay, I'm going to look for it again, Randall. I don't remember seeing it, but I'll have to check that out. One thing I do want to mention to you guys, yes, I'm on Facebook. No, I don't really do a lot with social media personally. Most of my social media interaction is with Athearn. So if you send me a friend request and I never respond, please don't take it as me casting any shade on you. It's just because I literally don't look at Facebook that much personally. Also, if you send a message to me on Facebook, I might get to it eventually, maybe like 3 or 4 weeks, just because it's funny. Since I do social media for work, I turn very analog after hours. Now, that being said, you can also message us on the Athearn Facebook Messenger, and I will catch those because that's my job. So go ahead and send those there too. So Randall, if I don't respond in a day or two, do me a favor and send it again. Terry is writing in saying, I got my Rock GP15 and it runs awesome. I think he likes it, folks. Wish the ditch lights and number boards would light up also for the DC version, though. Yeah, we had to take some, there is a way you can get those to light up, though, because the all the molding, all the changes that John did to those, you can do it. You're gonna have to just add your own lights. But glad to hear that you're really liking that. Let's see. I saw another one here. Oh, Greg has got a rail fan term for us. He says SD60E Crescent Cab is familiar to the Buffalo area and leading eastbounds out of Birmingham, New York on the Southern Tier line. Nice to know, Greg. Thank you. Yeah, the funny thing is the line that's by me, the old Wabash line, it's literally probably 4 or 5 hours south of me. I cross it every day on my way to the office at Athearn, and for whatever reason, I see a lot of SD60Es there. I've got some really cool locomotives there. It's essentially just a connection line now. It's nothing like it was back when it was Wabash. But there are some cool artifacts on it still. There's some old Wabash era signals in Lodge. There's some other cool stuff if you look for it. And ironically enough, that used to cross in Lodge. It used to cross the Illinois Central, or later the Illinois Central Gulf. In fact, Lodge, Illinois was famous. It was in the Guinness Book of World Records at one point because it was the only town that was completely underneath an overpass. Why was it under an overpass, you ask? Well, that's because the diamond was basically in the middle of town and at the height of operations for both Wabash and IC. Well, there was trains everywhere stopping traffic, so they just built an overpass on it. Unfortunately, not much of Lodge left anymore. It's pretty much a ghost town. And the overpass is long gone, as well as the ICG, which would continue west and actually cross only a few blocks from where I'm doing this live feed right now. Let's see what other questions we have, and then let's go run some trains real quick. GLC Watco says, hey, Jim, you should rerun the John Deere train set. It was a while ago that we did that. It was at least 20 years ago. Yeah, that's a licensing thing, unfortunately. And honestly, John Deere, the licensing is so high that unfortunately we just can't stomach it. We would have to pass that on to you, and the price would probably be way over the top. So unfortunately, I'm not going to say we'll never do it again, but right now, at least, the chances are pretty slim. Anthony says, Jim, NS did do a CNJ Heritage unit. It was an SD70 unit, if I'm right. I believe you are, and yes, they did. Remember, they did that famous picture at the Roundhouse of all of the Heritage units. Somebody also did a funny meme of the CSX version. So if you haven't seen that, go take a look at it. A lot of folks are really divided on the CSX Heritage units. Tim, our PD guys might like the way you're thinking. He says, if you want to take legendary liveries to its most extreme conclusion, do a high hood, long hood forward SD70 Ace in Norfolk Western. There you go. That would get some rivet counters extremely upset. Let's see. Sid is requesting from product development a weekly reminder to produce HS scale Athearn team. That'd be kind of cool, actually. Then you could put Janik or John in your locomotive, and you can put me at the hot dog concession stand. That's where I'll be with a camera around me waiting for the next train. John, thank you for posting this. I'm going to read your comment because it's very applicable. John says, you should comment on the great value today's models represent. I just bought your N-scale Challenger. Adjusted for inflation, it's half the cost of an HS scale big boy from 1966 and better runner and detail. Yeah, that's true. We hear a lot of people, and I mean, I'm guilty of it too. We hear a lot of people complain about how expensive model railroading is getting. And you got to remember, even if you look outside the industry of model trains, if you look at, say, cars, You know, a brand new Ford Mustang in 1966 was just about $29.95. Granted, that was a base model Mustang with a straight six, probably a 200. And nowadays, a Mustang is, I don't know, I haven't looked at a new one in a while, 48,000 at least. Same with pickup trucks. Pickup trucks used to be super simple, really cheap, but nowadays they're upwards of $70,000 or more. Well, fortunately, the inflation hasn't been as bad with trains. If you think about it, what John is saying is the value that you're getting with modern day equipment. Let's keep in mind that Athearn Genesis and even some of the Athearn stuff that we produce is what a lot of people used to get only in brass 20, 30 years ago. And if you were someone that had brass back in the days, back in the 70s and 80s, you knew that the detail was amazing and it was great. But running wise, it was, yeah. I remember seeing a lot of articles in RMC back in the day about remotoring brass imported locomotives. And imagine now trying to put all those lighting features and DCC features in these models, it'd be kind of hard. So in some ways, yes, the price has gone up, but they are not just simple locomotives or not just simple models anymore either. I also hear a lot of folks, you know, lament about the fall of blue box kits. But the problem with blue box kits were they were pretty much one size fits all. One GP38-2 looked like another GP38-2 with some minor changes. But, you know, if it was painted armor yellow and Harbor Mist gray, it was Union Pacific. It was Cascade green, then it's Burlington Northern. And we can't do that anymore. Our customers are much, much more educated than they were 40 years ago on prototype detail. So everybody knows the subtle differences between those models. And yeah, the price has to go somewhere, but we try to pack them with features. So thank you for bringing that up. That's a great comment. All right, I'm going to do one more question here, and then let's play with some trains real quick. Andrew, this is an interesting question. Why don't you put train crew figures in the locomotive cabs? We've actually talked about that. It's, you know, right up front, the biggest thing is cost. It does cost something. You're probably thinking, well, wait a minute, you're manufacturing the locomotive is just one more piece. Just keep in mind, one more piece is going to include more on the price. It's just like anything else. It's still a raw material that's being added. Another thing too is we found that guys that are going to put crews in their cabs, while our locomotive cabs, at least in the Genesis line, are detailed, guys are going to want to go a little bit further. I've seen some guys do some amazing painting and even weathering inside the cabs of Genesis locomotives. So generally, we've left that alone. But that doesn't mean we won't ever do it. There may come a time when we do that. We wouldn't be the first. I remember Lifelike about 25 years ago kind of got that when they started doing some HO scale releases with a crew in the cab. All right, well, let's see what we can do here to get some trains running. And actually, rather than you watching me do this, I'm just going to minimize this real quick. We'll be right back. All right. Let's go ahead and fire this guy up. All right, there's our startup sequence. Let's turn on our number boards. This has lighted number boards. Now it's going to be hard to see, but that is function 6. Yeah, we'll have to zoom in on that. I can see it, but you guys can't. We'll turn on our headlight. And of course, we'll turn on our ditch lights, function 5. And let's bring this thing in closer so you guys can see it. Now, you guys are going to want to know about this too. Of course, when you hit the horn, you do get oscillating ditch lights. I am going to try to cut some light in here so you can see the number boards. So let's go ahead and shut off those. And we'll shut off our headlight. There we go. Let me kill some of the lights in here. Okay, there you go. So if I hit function 6, now you can see the headlights. You can't see it because of the angle, but this does have ground lights. I don't know if I can get that glare on the... Yeah, I can't really do it. It's just not dark enough. But there are functioning ground lights on this unit. I apologize for the shakiness of the layout. It is not my permanent layout. It's just kind of set up for tonight's show. All right. Let's go ahead and shut him down. And we'll answer a few more questions and let you guys get back to working on your own layout. All right, thanks for bearing with me there for a little bit. So, Andrew wants to know, so the bell doesn't come on when the horn is activated. You can program it that way. I think Soundtrack calls it their grade crossing feature. And that's actually illustrated in the manual, so you can do that. This is literally, I took it from our product development. Actually, no, sorry, our products that we use for photography and marketing. So it's still on address 3. I haven't even had a chance to really play with it. So let's see other questions we've got here. Kevin said he could see the ground lights shining on the roadbed. Good to know. Let's see what else we've got. Nick wants to know if we're going to be adding the ground walkway lights to locomotives anytime soon. Not in the immediate future, but it is on the list of things to do. Right now, Genesis has got a pretty good legacy going back well over 20 years. That we've got some models that 20 years ago they were, the top of the tier, and also there were no competitors. Since then, we've had some competitors that make some fine models, and they have the advantage of starting from scratch. We have a slightly steeper hill to climb because we're taking existing tooling and updating it to match what our competitors are doing. And quite frankly, It's good that we got competitors because it pushes all of us to give you the best products available, and you as a consumer, you win. It's kind of a good thing to be in. Yeah, eventually we're going to be doing a lot more lighting features. A couple of questions, and then I'm going to let you guys get back to some working on the railroad. I've got some track to paint tonight. MD wants to know, hey Jim, any idea when the WAMX Wisconsin Southern SD40-2s announced in 2023 are due? I've heard November of 25, but also July. Yeah, it's looking more like November. Last I was looking at my notes, I want to say it's going to be more November. Originally, we wanted them a lot earlier than that. We had some production delays, and of course, we're behind on some things, but we're slowly catching up. CA11 update. John actually had the N scale version at Amherst. He's moving right along on those models, both the HO and the N scale. I don't have an update as to when those are going to be available, though. Let's see. Tim, I appreciate your comment. Train Tuesday has pushed you towards Athearn. Well, hopefully that's been helpful to you. We like to, this new format is going to allow us to actually show you what's going on, what is in the models, and what kind of lighting functions and things of that nature they actually have equipped from the factory. Now, we're not going to just do Genesis locomotives. We're also going to do Athearn and roundhouse locomotives. We're also going to do freight cars too. So my goal with Train Tuesday is to show you what's coming in stock soon or already at your Athearn dealer, so you can add it to your roster and your layout, which, yeah, I'm probably going to get in trouble for doing this format because already I've added a couple of locomotives to my collection. Interesting question, Dan. Jim, since Athearn has announced the car knocker line, is there a chance to see the same with locomotives by mixing the prime for grime and the car knocker line in one? Well, we've talked about it. We'll have to see. I don't have anything positive for you right now. I can tell you this much: the car knocker line is not just for those gondolas that we announced this month. We're going to be doing that with other freight cars as well. They may not have the damage as extreme as the gondolas, but they're gonna start pushing the envelope on authenticity with freight cars. But to limit it to just freight cars, there's a possibility you might see something in a year or two with locomotives involved. Let's see what else we've got. GP40-2s, any updates on them? If you are talking about the ones like the Guilford units, the GP40-2Ws, we are still hoping to get those in by mid to late July. So be prepared. Another thing too that can help is sign up for our email newsletter. Go to athearn.com. And if you don't get the little pop-up that says to sign up, just scroll all the way to the bottom of the website, and there's a box down there. You can fill in your email address and hit submit. And every Friday, you'll get a new email newsletter. Now, that reminds me too, I try to put as much news in the newsletter as possible. What's the pre-orders for the month? What's coming soon? What is now shipping? And what Athearn's working on. I have both John and Janik and the guys in PD send me pictures occasionally that we like to share with you guys. Also, this week, this Friday, there's going to be a survey. Now, some of you guys on social media may have already seen the survey. It's time for our annual modeler survey. And what is the annual modeler survey, you ask? Basically, we want to know what you're modeling, what you're into, what your favorite roads, what's your preferred scale. I will say that so far on the social media side that has answered the survey, we saw an increase of N scale guys. Now that survey is going to go out this Friday on our email newsletter. Go ahead and fill that out. It's run by SurveyMonkey. And that is like gold for anybody at Athearn because that basically shows us which direction to go. what roads should we concentrate on and what models should we concentrate on. JD wants to know, can we talk about the car knocker gondolas in one of these episodes? Yeah, we can do that. We can definitely talk about that. Maybe next week, depending on what we have coming in soon. We might have enough time to talk about the car knockers a little bit. I'm really excited about these because anybody that's tried to weather a gondola to look like the actual prototype knows how hard it is. How many people have tried taking a gondola and a soldering iron and trying to get the panels bent, but you end up bending more than just the panel. It's really hard to do. And Athearn is going to be leading the way on how we do that type of damage. And yeah, we'll definitely talk about some of the engineering involved. Let's see. I've got time for one, maybe two more questions, and I'm going to let you get going on your layouts. Somebody was asking if we have a warranty center in Canada. No, we don't. Everything gets serviced in Champaign. Let's see. Yeah, I agree. Car knockers for the 1970s would be great. Yeah, don't forget, 1970s was the last hoorah for a lot of 40-foot boxcars. Really cool era, 1970s. You had 40-foot boxcars that have been modernized in the late 60s. Definitely seeing some wear and tear. That would be a great subject. Oh, BN Green. Jim, I model 1970s BN and HO, but just for fun, I'm doing a couple of Fremo N modules based on Montana Rail Link. Any idea when the N scale F45s are expected? Yeah, soon. I want to say June, July, we should start seeing them. Because I don't do Fremo N, but I do N track or N rail as they call it now. And I too am expecting those. Expect those around July. You should start seeing those. Peter says, I don't like the survey because it doesn't ask what we want specifically. Well, good news, Peter. You can post exactly what you want, at least if it's a road name or a model, to our Athearn product suggestion email. Now, that product suggestion email is Athearn-product suggestions at athearn.com. Again, it's Athearn-product suggestions at athearn.com. Now here comes the disclaimer. Just because you send us an email to do a certain locomotive, road name, or boxcar does not mean we are obligated to absolutely do that car or that model. But we do like to get comments from our modelers of what they'd like to see. Dundas, I did not read your question because I missed it. Please don't ever think that I'm not seeing those questions, because I don't if I'm turning around stuff. So I will wait a little bit so Dundas can ask the question. So ask the question now. Here's your chance, Dundas. I'm looking. Oh, let's see. See on what else we go here. Late Night wants to know if the upcoming Athearn SD40s, if they're landing this year. Yes. Okay. Dundas says you answered finally. Okay, sorry. You got to remember, you're not the only guy that's commenting, and I don't always see it. So please do not think that I am ignoring you. I try to answer as many of these as I can on the live. I also like to try to keep the live short because, we don't need to go 2 hours on this. All right. Well, with that, I think I'm going to let you guys get to it. I'm glad that you guys are liking the new format. It's a little different than what we did in the past, but it's a lot more interesting to actually see the models in action and see what kind of features they have. So we're going to keep doing this throughout 2025. We did have some comments on the last video saying, well, I kind of like to know what's coming out for pre-order. Well, don't worry. I've combined the Train Tuesday format with the new announcements video, and they're bite-sized videos per item. You can see those on our YouTube channel under new announcements. And for the new announcements, we now go more in depth. We talk about the prototype. We talk about what we're offering. And there are links to the PDF pages, as well as all of the models on our website. So with that, I want to thank you all for joining me here tonight on Train Tuesday. If you're catching us later on YouTube, thank you very much. Also, thank you for getting us to 10,000 subscribers. We really do appreciate it. We're going to have something special planned for you later in the year. Until next time, I want everyone out there to be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some modeling, and above all, high greens. Take care, everyone.